The what?
Hi.
The background. Oh, we're live now.
We're live now, Gabe. Hi. Welcome to the Mighty. My name is AnnMarie. I am joined by my buddy Gabe over here, and it is Suicide Prevention Month.
Oh, shit.
I know. You know, StreamYard, it does that. It's Suicide Prevention Month. And Gabe and I have some thoughts on this. And I want to start it out by telling a story. I do like telling stories. So I love
stories.
I was coming home from an event in our district, and I was coming down the hill, and I wasn't necessarily like flying, but I was going a little bit over the speed limit, and I got pulled over by an officer. And the officer who pulled me over was very kind and asked me if my license is suspended or revoked, and I said, absolutely not. And he asked where I was coming from. And I explained where I was coming from. I had gone and spoken to our Board of Education about a mental health clinic. And I was pretty, I'm going to use the word jacked up about it. I'm pretty sure you could feel my energy from wherever you are watching this or listening to this right now. I was very upset. I was, I needed a solution that wasn't happening. So I started explaining this to the officer who could have shooed me off. He didn't. He did something that was so profound and so amazing. He asked me how he could get more help. How could he get more resources to help the people that he engages with on a daily? What are the right words he should use? How should he be talking to people? Where should he be sending people? And I said to him, do you guys take classes over this? Is this something that, that you have in your library or your police library? I don't know what the heck goes on there. Or I don't. So he said, we take a class every year. It's about a 3-hour long class, and we talk about blah, 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 blah. That's it? One class a year? And he couldn't believe it either. Like, he was actually shocked, but he gives me his business card. He did not give me a ticket. Thank you, officer. But he wanted to make a change. He wanted more information, more resources to help him better his job. That is what we all should be doing. Every single one of us. I don't want to hear, this is not in my life, this is not my family, this is not my friends, because everything that other people do affects us all. It affects every one of us. If you go to the grocery store, if you go to, the gas station and you interact with people, you are affected by other people's knowledge and education around mental health and suicide, real awareness and education. You are. So you have to start to make a change. This officer wants to make a change and make his job better and make himself better at what he's doing. And Gabe, you were the first person I thought of when this happened. And I almost texted you, but I was like, I can't text and drive. I wanted to talk about it here because I think it's so important, because I know you've done a lot with police officers, and I don't just mean their own mental being and how they handle situations and how, they're treated in that way, but how they go into situations, right? Yeah. It's not just about our doctors knowing exactly how to handle this, or the teachers or the counselors. It is about police officers and, emergency responders and people at the grocery store. I mean, it's everybody. And to one other point to this, I don't want to hear anymore that we're doing enough. I don't want to hear it. I'm tired of hearing it. 130 people die every single day by suicide. That's probably an estimate. Those are probably people that, that's what's on their death certificate. That is unacceptable. We are not doing enough. If you think we are doing enough, could you look somebody in the face who lost a child, a father, a mother, a grandparent, an aunt, an uncle, a cousin, a best friend, a wife, whoever? Could you look them in the face and say, we did enough? You could not. And if you could, you're a cold-hearted snake. We are not doing enough. We need to do more. Okay, there's my 4.5 minute rant.
Was that how long it was? Okay, a couple things. First of all, I think that I'm really glad that you started off this way, talking about that encounter with that officer. Here's what I want to say. For 5 years, I worked at a locked inpatient psychiatric hospital that started the first crisis intervention specialist training for law enforcement in the country. Everybody's heard of CIT. CIT started in 1986. It's called the Memphis model, crisis intervention team approach to mental health and crisis intervention de-escalation. Montgomery County Emergency Service started the crisis intervention specialist training in 1976, so 10 years before the Memphis model. And their goal, CIT, is to train certain officers in crisis intervention and de-escalation. The CIS model, where I was trained and worked, aims to train every single officer in the department. The training is 40 hours. It's not 3 hours. There's a basic training and there's an advanced training. The officers come to the hospital. They get trained on everything related to, it's like mental illness and suicide prevention 101. They hear from people with lived experience. They go down onto the unit and they meet people whom they've 302, that's Pennsylvania talk for involuntarily committed. They talk to doctors. They read their charts. They have presentations by NAMI. The program is really excellent, and it's not replicated, unfortunately, in other parts of the country, which is very sad to me.
Very sad.
The other thing that I think is very important is this officer said, where do we take people? So it's all well and good for me to talk about MCES's Crisis Intervention Specialist program, but you can train officers up, down, and sideways. You can train them for 40 hours or 400 hours. But if there is not a 24/7 facility to receive these people, to have a no refusal policy for law enforcement, that law enforcement can come to 2 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning with someone.
Well, if there's a bed.
Right, if there's a bed, right. But if that facility doesn't exist, they're taking them to jail, right? Because that's always open. So MCES was started for jail diversion. There were 2 suicides at the Montgomery County Correctional Facility in '74. And MCES, the hospital I used to work at, was created to try to divert people with mental illness, whose mental illness is the primary factor for why they encounter law enforcement, to have a facility for them so that they don't have to go to jail. So it's a whole nuanced spectrum related to mental illness and suicide prevention. When you talk about law enforcement, it's a very well-known stat that so many law enforcement agencies report every year that over 80%, 85% of their call volume is mental health related. Right. Those are the calls they're answering all the time. And yet a lot of these officers are being given shit training, three hours. Forget it. Yeah. They're spending 40 hours on learning how to drive a patrol car in emergencies. How many hours are they spent learning to fire a gun when the stat is most police officers in a 25-year career never fire their weapon on duty? Never. Right. So what we need to be focusing on from the academy, from day one and all the way through their career, is education about mental illness and suicide prevention, not just for the people they encounter, but for themselves.
Absolutely. Because that was a subject I know that we could talk for hours on that subject alone.
Correct.
But I let's stay in the lane of to help other people, because they definitely need something more than they have, because they don't have it. I mean, I sent him so much resources and information and help. First, Sarah, I'd like to say I'm terribly sorry that you lost your father. My heart goes out to you. Big hugs to you. Wendy, I really want to make a comment about this, because I've actually been doing a lot of thinking about, in a roundabout way, which you just wrote there. Wendy's saying that she's had to call the police on, her daughter has come in mental health crisis, and they would see all the damage and say, what am I doing as a parent? That makes me so upset. I can't even express to you how upset it makes me. And I want this is a very important statement. You can be the most amazing June Cleaver parent, DIY Pinterest parent out there, involved in all of your kids' things, and you make them breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and you do everything you possibly could. They could still have a mental illness and still die by suicide. Okay. It is not the parent's fault on a whole. And I don't mean that in a bad way. You are giving your child the best love and support that you possibly know how in a job title that has absolutely no handbook or rule book amongst it. The fail is our society and our community. That is the epic fail to me. As a parent, I am educated in mental health, so I can help my child with that. As difficult as it is, I can help their friends too with that. I look at other people. I have friends who have never lived with depression, anxiety. They've never understood what PTSD is. They live in this euphoric world. I don't know what that world is, but they live there. And those are the people that need help because they need to be educated on it and they want to be educated on it. Every parent I've talked to has said, I need help. I don't know what to do. I've never been in this situation. How can I help them? That's the problem. It's not the parenting. It's the education around it. Why as a society and a community, aren't we not just educating children, but we're educating the parents and the librarian and, holding seminars and classes and all sorts of things. I don't understand this. I don't. So I just want you to know, Wendy, that you are doing everything I am sure you possibly could for your child. That is a completely disturbing, destructive statement.
Yeah. And as far as training, there are so many myths about suicide and suicide prevention that are so pervasive and are so destructive. And I think one of the most pervasive and destructive ones is that no one can prevent a suicide because, well, if they want to do it, they're going to do it. Right. So there's that. And then for those who maybe have a little bit more nuanced view on it, well, only a trained mental health professional can prevent suicide. Oh, bullshit. Okay. So anybody, if you leave this show not understanding anything else, please understand this. Anybody can die by suicide and anybody can prevent a suicide. That's why we need community education. It doesn't happen by magic, but you do have to know certain things to say, certain things to not say, certain warning signs, risk factors that people have. But once you have that kind of basic knowledge and basic awareness of people around you, I'm looking right at you can prevent a suicide in your community. It just takes a willingness and a commitment to dip your toe into something a little bit scary. And it is scary. But the more you know, the less scary it is actually, because we're most afraid of what we don't know. But if you take the time to get educated, if you take the time to learn a little bit more, you really can be of great service to your fellow man. I really believe that. Absolutely.
And it's not, what Gabe is saying, it's not about just educating yourself about suicide prevention and what to say to someone. It's also educating yourself about depression. What does that mean? Anxiety. What does that mean? Bipolar. What does that mean? Schizophrenia. Everything. Educating yourself about the depressive illness is how you can help someone who's suicidal. Because I will say it as a survivor. You don't want to die. That's not what you want. You want the pain to stop, and you cannot see any other way out. Nothing. You cannot see any way out. There's always something else you can do. Always. There just is. The hard part is asking for help, because when you're in that depressive state where you can see nothing else, you need help. You cannot do it alone. You cannot. And we have created such a stigma around asking for help that it makes it even more challenging for that person to reach out. We've glamorized drug and alcohol addiction so much. We've made it a coping mechanism so unhealthy that people think that's a solution. It is not a solution. Getting drunk and, doing lines of coke is not the solution for going through depressive episode. It just isn't. It's a very unhealthy coping mechanism.
And we've really, I was talking to someone about this the other day. We have succeeded in normalizing and even celebrating alcohol abuse in particular. We glamorize it, we glorify it. If you don't drink, you're a fucking weirdo, or you're aberrant, or there's something wrong with you, or you must be in recovery. So I don't drink. This is lemonade iced tea, by the way. It looks like whiskey, whatever, but I don't drink anything. All through my young adult life and my adult life, I've been treated like what is this? Why doesn't he? I don't want it in my life. I don't want anything to do with it. I'm not interested in it. You want to do it, great. But it has become so normalized that young people in particular who have a problem. One of my former colleagues at the psychiatric hospital said, I knew at 17 I was an alcoholic. I knew. But everyone, he was Irish Catholic and played football, and all the boys going out and going drinking after the game and da da da. It was just like, how could I possibly be an alcoholic? But he knew. But everyone else around him is like, he's doing the right thing. He's getting drunk with all the rest of the guys,
because they normalized it.
Exactly. It's really very sad.
I was listening to a band at a family atmosphere. Okay, kids running all over the place. Every time there was in between a song, the band member talked about, raise your drink, have a shot. What's everyone drinking out there? I'm like, you're in a field filled with kids. Like this is, and I know this is a bigger issue, but what I'm saying to you is, and what Gabe is saying is, people use that as a coping mechanism. That is not healthy. And we all know alcohol is a depressant, so it's going to increase your depressive mood. It is 100% going to what did I just say?
I don't know. What were you saying? I was reading a comment. I'm sorry.
You weren't listening to me.
I was. You were talking about alcohol, and you were talking about the band, and then they said, what are you drinking? What are you drinking? And then you said, it's a and I don't know what word you were trying to say. I don't even remember.
I have no idea. I have no idea.
Can anybody in the comments help her out?
No, I think I was just saying it's a coping mechanism, and it's not. And that's part of the problem, right? We talk constantly everywhere I see it, and the only thing they ever tell these kids in school is watch for the warning signs, and they give you a list of warning signs, not showering, giving away possessions. I mean, we can all rattle them off, right? Where's the solution? Who's giving any of these kids, any of these adults, solutions to help that person that is having the signs? What is the solution? What should they do? I'm seriously asking this question. I mean, I know what to do, but who is telling what to do? Nobody. We need a solution. We need help. And that solution may not work for every single person. So guess what? We need more than one solution. We need lists of them. And we need to teach people how to use their solutions on a regular so that they can use those healthy solutions and alternatives than relying on the drug and alcohol that they're accustomed to.
Well, so two things about that. So first of all, I think talking about alcohol here is completely relevant because we know from autopsies that so many people who die by suicide have alcohol in their systems, right? Because either they're abusing alcohol anyway, or they're getting that kind of liquid courage up, right? To then take their lives. So alcohol and suicide are like that. So I feel like you really can't talk about suicide without talking about alcohol. Okay. That's the first thing. And yes, AnnMarie, like you were saying, we do need solutions, and we need to be educating people, but we also need to be educating people around those who are possibly experiencing suicide.
Exactly,
we need to be teaching people, that it's okay to ask someone, are you thinking about killing yourself? I'm worried about you. Here we go. Come on up. You want to come up and say hi?
Here comes the big beast.
Yeah, here she is. Hi,
sweetie.
Okay, get away from me now. So that education is critical because, like I was saying about those myths about suicide, that's one of the huge ones. Well, if I say something,
I don't want to offend anybody.
I don't want to offend someone. I'll be liable if I say something and they do it, or what
if they get mad at me? What if they get mad at me? Let me tell you something.
Who cares?
Let them get mad at you, because I'm 100% sure you would rather them be mad at you and have them know that you see them than go to their funeral.
Let me tell you something. I have a friend in a different state who I had to contact sheriff's deputies about. I was very concerned about this person. And this individual called me and said, there's a helicopter over such and such bridge, and there are sheriff's deputies at my work, and there's another department out looking for me. Did you call? And I said, yeah, I did. And I will do, based on what you told me, I will fucking do it every single time,
100%.
Knowing what I know. And this individual was very pissed at me. And for a while, I don't care. And you shouldn't either.
Right. I have performed several well checks, and I've had people upset with me, but I've also had people thank me, telling me that, it saved them. So for everyone that's mad at me, I have more of that. So a couple things about the comments going on. First of all, Angela, I'm so glad you're here too. That makes my heart warm to know that you're here and you weren't, we learn through survivors. We learn because we see that you are still here and you have lived through it. Your last sentence there is so impactful. I lived through it. That's incredible. And, celebration. And then we have, what do we else we have over here? There's something else I wanted to comment. Now I can't remember what the heck it was. Yes, that one. Yes. Santiago. What a doll. He's listening and he's actually like putting it to work. And that is so important, right? It doesn't take much to just be there to listen to someone, just to listen. And here's the other thing. I know it's scary. Like, I get that. Super scary. People just need someone to listen to. It's not always with a plan. Sometimes it's that feeling of desperation and frustration, and they just need someone to listen to them, to get it out. And when they get it out, then they can kind of reevaluate and go back and say, you know what? I think I could do this first. Thank you for listening to me. That's all it takes sometimes. Not all the time, but it does. That listening is really, really big. And then there was one other thing that is important. Mandy made a comment, and her thing, the last sentence there, how to re-enter the workforce after being off for an extended period of time. I have such an issue with this. It drives me out of my ever-loving mind. And we talked about it just a little bit a few months ago when we talked about Simone, leaving the Olympics because she needed to take a mental health break. And everyone's, woo, great job, you did it. Well, we're so proud of you. But then we get comments like this. So clearly all we're doing is giving accolades to somebody for doing it. We're not actually looking at how we can handle it in our job situation. And I will tell you, more people than I know will call in sick and say they have a stomach ache than they need to take a mental health day.
Absolutely.
I'm going to give a major shout out to Nike because last week they gave their employees the entire week off for mental health. And they gave them lists of things they could do, not just, yoga and all that stuff, but like hikes and, courses that they can take. That's a solution. That is a solution. And it shows that you care and you are putting mental and physical health on the same plateau.
Oh, I guess that means it's my turn to say something.
No, you don't have to, but whatever.
No, that's okay. I do have a couple of things to say. Related to Mandy, your comment about re-entering the workforce after being off for an extended period of time. I was once filling up gas. This was like a couple months ago. And I drive a Herbie the Love Bug replica with the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline all over the rear window. And consequently, and because I do that, it's the whole reason I do it, people come up and talk to me about some really heavy shit. And this guy was saying, he was talking to me about how he was abused in Catholic school as a child, and now he's in therapy. I mean, this is just filling up gas. And he was saying, recently he's not been doing really well, and he sent out an email to, he has 6 people working underneath him. And he wrote an email. He's like, just so you know, I'm not going to be in, I'm taking a mental health day. And this one person wrote back to him, didn't reply all, but wrote back to just him and said, hey, maybe you shouldn't write that next time.
Oy.
And he said, what do you think about that? And I said, I would have replied, fuck you.
100%.
And I would have re-added all the other 5 people on the email so they could see it. Because that's not the world that I would want to live in. And that's not the place I would want to work, where that is where you have to hide who you are. One other thing related to that, I was talking to a police officer in my former township where I used to live, and he was talking about taking the polygraph test when he was being hired. And he said they only dinged him once. And it was, have you ever sought mental health treatment? And he thought, well, shit, if I say yes, they won't hire me. So he had. So he said no. And the polygraph went off, detecting a lie. And they asked him again. They asked him a few more questions, and then they came back to that question, and he lied again, and it dinged again. And the sergeant came into the room and said, what the fuck are you doing? We know you're lying.
Right.
You've sought mental health treatment before. And he said, yeah, I have. And the sergeant said, why did you lie? And he said, well, I thought, you wouldn't want me, you're going to give me a gun, and, you wouldn't want someone crazy, And the sergeant looked at him and said, that's old school. He said, we want people who are going to therapy. We want people who are open about their mental health issues and who aren't fucking lying about it and hiding it because they think they have to. We want people like you who are being proactive about your mental health. Now, Can I say that every police department is like that? No, they're not.
No.
But
it takes that one person. This is kind of where I was getting at with that other officer. It takes that one person to say, hey, look, we need to change. And then maybe get another person behind them and another person behind them.
And that's culture change. That's how
that
it
is
starts.
Culture. Exactly. We don't, I know that this talk is about survivors, but this is kind of what encompasses all of it.
It's all relevant, AnnMarie.
I know that, but I do want to point a few things out that I think are really important, because I think, first of all, we really don't know the number of attempts, because they could happen and we don't even know about them.
We don't know the number of suicides.
Exactly. These are all estimates, is my point. All estimates. But people realize that, grades as young as 9 to 10, ninth graders and 10th graders and 12th graders, like the attempts are prominent right there. Prominent. And parents may not even know that it's going on. Seriously. They may not even know. Children as young as 5 years old have been reported to have suicidal thoughts. How can we not make a change in this? How can we not find a solution and find ways to help people so they don't get to that attempt spot? The only way to do that is to have honest, real conversations and to change culture exactly how we're talking. That is literally the only way, because we've stigmatized it so much at this point that if we don't make a dramatic change soon, the numbers are just going to keep going on and on. They're just going to. We've already seen, I read, I think it's the American Foundation of Suicide Prevention, since 2019, we've had a 35% increase in suicide. Can you imagine when we add COVID to that? It's going to be through the roof. Through the roof.
I really, and I know I said this earlier, I really believe that meaningful change will only occur when it is understood that it can be anybody. Mm-hmm. Because I think if I think about the one thing, the greatest barrier to meaningful change related to suicide prevention, it's that people really genuinely don't believe that it could be anyone, that it could be them, that it could be their child, their spouse, their father. They really still believe that's somebody else. Because that can't really happen to me. Until
it happens to you.
Right.
Until it affects you. But my point in what you just said, and I think this is really, really important, it doesn't have to happen to you. If your child is in school and their friend dies by suicide, it happened to you because that affects your child. If your colleague at work died by suicide, it affected you because that is your colleague at work. And my list can go on and on there. Yeah. It shouldn't have to be a tangible person that is in front of your face on a daily. It is affecting our society. It's affecting our community. And if we are in an epidemic of this, wake up. I've been so angry in this past week at the lack of knowledge and what's the word I'm looking for, of eyes being open. Like, stop burying your head in the sand and pretend that everything is peachy, because it's so far from it. And like we just said, those numbers that we rattle off, like 130 people every day, that I can guarantee you that number is higher than it is. That's just an estimate. So if 130 people approximately die today because of suicide, how can you tell me that it's not just anybody? That is everybody.
It's a plane. It's a passenger jet every single day.
Wow, that's a good way to look at it.
Now, so do you think that the FAA and the NTSB would ground all airlines if that was happening every single day? They sure as fuck would.
Right.
But we're just sitting around with our thumbs up our ass, posting memes and, just throwing up the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline number going, okay, well, I did my thing, right? No, you haven't. You really haven't. So Mandy, this is really important. And I'm a parent and AnnMarie is a parent. Mandy's last comment here, my children won't speak, won't talk to me now. We were so close before. It's a heartbreaking thing to understand as a parent how that dynamic changes, and how the children grow and we grow apart and we change. They may not be speaking to you, but I guarantee you they're speaking to their peers. So this is why student organizations like Avidum, like DMAX, like all of these, like NAMI on campus, this is why these organizations in schools are so critical, to give peers the language to talk, to listen, to understand. Because you're right, a lot of times the children aren't speaking to us anymore. Thankfully my children are still like 9 3/4. They're not going to want to fucking have anything to do with me very soon. I'm still waiting for the moment where they're like, get the fuck away from me. And it's going to happen. Okay. And
who's got the odometer for how many times Gabe has said the F word in this?
I'm sure someone's keeping track.
Keep going, Gabe. Keep going. You're totally right on point with this.
So I that's why, of course, parents need to be educated. You need to know what to be looking for. If your child is withdrawing, and withdrawing in a way that is different from like, school is fine, don't talk to me, in a much more different way. So we need that education for parents, but the students need that awareness to be more in tune with what's happening with themselves and with each other. It needs to be part of all health education classes, starting in elementary school. Go ahead, AnnMarie.
So here we have Mandy living, with a mental health challenge. Okay. Her kids need support. Okay. Her kids need support from her community. They need it from school. And this goes back to, it's not just about teaching these kids the warning signs and, how to help themselves. It's how are they coping with their life at home with a parent that may have a mental health challenge? That is education. And how does the teacher help that child and help that parent get through the school year when the parent has a mental health issue? Mandy, I have 4 kids, and I've been very open with them in the past 8 years about my mental health challenges, about my hospitalization, about my attempts, about my everything. Okay. And they are supportive of me. I'm going to speak to you and tell you, you are not a bad parent. You are not thinking of yourself and not your children if you're getting the help that you need. You are doing what's right for you, and you can't help them if you aren't helping yourself. So please know that there are support groups and resources out there that can help you as a mom, as a parent, to get you through this with your kids. But you have to know that, they are your kids, but if you aren't healthy, you can't do anything for them. So you need to take care of yourself, and you have to do it for you. Not because you're a mom or because you got kids. You have to do it for you. You have to find those things in you that make you have hope. And they're there. You just got to dig really hard. And it's not just about going to therapy. It's about doing that work. And trust me, I know how difficult it is, but I had to say that because I've been that mom. I've been that mom that thought, God, why do I feel so suicidal? Why do I want to die so bad when I got these kids? Which then made me feel like a bad mom because I was having these thoughts, but I wasn't educated enough to realize it's not about my kids. It's about the pain that I'm in. And if I can't work through that and get through it, I can't do anything for them. And guess what? Then they're without a mom. And that's harder for them. Trust me, I grew up without a mother. it's harder for them. So we have to work through it for us to show them that you can put the work in, you can get through it, and you can be stronger. May not be today, may not be tomorrow, maybe in a month, 2 months, a year, I don't know. But you can do it. You're showing them strength. They may not realize it just yet. They will, trust me.
Yeah. And I think it's also important to recognize, first of all, Mandy, like you're making the choice to be here right now. You could be doing 100 million other things right now, but you're making this choice to be here with us. And I think it's really lovely. Mm-hmm. And also to remember that you have inherent worth as a human being. And I mean you, Mandy, and you, everyone, whether you're a parent, whether you have a job, whether you live in a rent-controlled apartment or a mansion or whatever, you have the right to your own troubles. You have the right to your own suffering, and you have the right to feel better. You have the right to seek treatment and get the help that you need. It's so vital that we recognize that we're all worth getting better. And that it's not like, well, I'm not as sick as so-and-so. Well, I only have depression. They have bipolar. I don't have it, but the suffering Olympics are not a thing.
No, they're not. There's no competition here. There should be no competition here. Everyone's situation is unique to them. And that is just the truth. No one has it worse off than anybody else. I mean, there could be other parameters around all of it, but I'm telling you, it's not. We need to stop this competition. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, it's doing a disservice to you and to everyone else to whom you compare yourself. There's really nothing good comes from it.
I just was going to say that, Gabe. It's not even just about the competition. It's about comparing, and we all do it. Like, I don't know why I got it so bad. I got a house. That person over there lives in, like you said, rent control, or whatever. Has to take the bus to work. Whatever the situation is, we stop doing that. You need to validate your personal existence and what's your personal struggle, and that is okay. I lost my train of thought again.
Oh no. That's it. Well, one thing I wanted to say that came from something we were talking about earlier is we were talking about that pain, right? And that wanting that pain to end. I think one of the things that is so painful, and one of the things that I've felt when I've thought about taking my own life, is that nobody cares.
Right.
And, nobody gives a shit. They'll only give a shit if I die. That's the only thing that will shake people up. That I'm suffering, nobody fucking really cares. And if you are able to communicate to someone, I care about you, I'm here to listen to you, I want to listen to you, not I want you to be here tomorrow and that kind of stuff, but I'm here for you today, right now, in this moment. That's incredibly powerful. And it really cuts through that very painful notion of nobody cares.
So perfect segue into what I was going to end with. So you did that right on the moment. We didn't even know.
You're welcome.
Reminding someone of their kids and their job and all that is not helpful. It puts guilt on them, which the guilt can be completely overwhelming, and it can make them really question themselves and the person that they are. So I know why people do that. Like, I understand that, but it adds to the guilt. And honestly, this is why I started What Would You Miss? Because it validates when you tell someone the things you miss about them. It's not their job or their kids or anything like that. When you tell them that, it validates their existence. It shows them that you see them. And it also lets them know that you would miss them if they weren't here, which is incredibly, incredibly important. As my child rummages through some bag in here that I don't know what he's doing.
What are you rummaging?
I don't know what he was doing. There's presents over there for his cousins. He's going through them. Anyways, my point is that you want to be seen. And when you know that you're seen, it does help you. And when you know that you're not a burden to somebody else by hearing that you would be missed, it's incredibly impactful. And like I said to you, I went to the board to talk about a mental health clinic that they rejected. We'll save that for another chat. one of my things is that I ended with, could you look a parent in the face who lost their child and tell them, oh, you're better off without them. Oh, things will be better now. You don't have to worry about that. We don't have enough room for a clinic. We have enough therapists. We do enough for the students. Could you honestly look them in the face and say that? You absolutely could not. If people would take 5 seconds, just 5, because it's really hard to do, and think about the things you'd miss about your kids, I can guarantee you it's not, them hugging you. It's not just those things. It's the things that drive you nuts, like my kid coming in while I'm in the middle of this and rummaging through something. I would miss him interrupting me if he wasn't here. I would 100% miss that. The things you would miss about somebody aren't what you think and aren't what they would think. When you tell your kid, your loved one, hey, I'd miss you if you would, I'd miss you coming into my office and, interrupting me. They're not a burden anymore. They are loved and they are seen. It can be a very impactful thing, and it's not a wrong thing to say, which is important. What help's available? Yeah. So we put the crisis number up there, 741-741. Definitely, use that if you are in crisis. It's been a long week. And I think one thing I would like to say is I would love people to be more angry and want to see more of a culture change, because we're failing as a society and we are failing miserably and we need more.
Yeah, I'll get political for a second. The mighty might cut me off. I don't really care. This weekend or tomorrow, there's a bunch of scumbags who are going to be descending on Washington, D.C. to advocate for the people who committed an act of domestic terrorism, an insurrection on this country, who violated one of the most sacred governmental buildings. They're angry enough to protest that people were arrested for breaking into the United States Capitol and assaulting police officers, and calling for the assassination of U.S. government officials. I'd love to see people that angry.
Yeah, exactly. I knew where you were going with that.
About a jet plane every single day in this country going down, people killing themselves. I'd love to see people that angry.
We need to be that angry. Honestly, we
get
really
angry
do.
About something fucking real. How about that?
Yeah, because mental health is the base of everything else. Everything else. So thank you everybody for listening. Gabe, I'm going to end it with a what would you miss?
Hit me.
Hit me with your best shot. I would miss breaking out into some random song and you giving me that freaking look every time. I would miss that so much. And I'm not sure what I would miss more, breaking out into a song or your face.
I think it's the reaction.
It is totally the reaction. Look at everyone. Please reach out to someone that you love, that you care about, and just tell them that you see them. Tell them that you would miss them, because I know that you would rather do that than listen to their funeral. I know that.
Yeah. Funerals suck. Let's go to fewer of them. Thank you.
Thank you.